Hey, folks. Welcome to the interview portion of this event. We're going to talk to Lulu. I won't butcher her last name, but I'll tell you that she is the managing director of Cygnus Instruments in the UK. And, Lulu, I want to take some time and say thanks for coming to chat with us today about what your company has to offer. We truly appreciate your partnership, and we look forward to what the future holds for everybody concerned. Let's just jump in with some questions and get the conversation started. So I like to start it off simple. Lulu, tell me about you. What is your background? Why did you choose to work at Cygnus? And tell us a little bit about the company itself.
Sure. Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me today, and we're enjoying this partnership as well. And great option not to pronounce my surname. Lulu's just fine. So my background is actually now 17 years at Cygnus Instruments. Prior to that, I was into hydrogeology. But the reason why I chose to work in Cygnus is because my family owns the company. And back in 2005, I needed to get involved. It was obviously not the original plan. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got into hydrogeology. And it was quite tough to start with. But luckily, I've had the experiences that I've had now, and I'm just so lucky to have the opportunities that I've got, and also the team that we've got at Cygnus. So what we do at Cygnus is we design, manufacture and support trusted, accurate, reliable, ultrasonic measurement equipment for use above and below water, selling to industrial inspection customers throughout the world, both directly and through a network of regional offices and distributors.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way you have to do business. And I can tell, you're personally obviously very invested in the company and its future. So it's great to see passionate people who are obviously running a family business that's with a worldwide reach. Cygnus has been in business since 1983, and I'm gonna guess that may be longer than some of the people watching this have been alive. I think about the changes in the technology and the practices that you guys may have seen and even pushed through. So can you talk about a little bit about the roots of Cygnus and where your core competence lies and what you think the future looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Delighted to. Thanks for the question.
Sure.
Um, so my father was the original founder of Cygnus, and he was a ship surveyor and a commercial diver. So he was obviously very close to the needs of those specific applications. And back in, I think, the 1970s, he was using big ultrasonic flaw detector, sort of oscilloscope based units in very harsh, difficult, dangerous conditions. And he was convinced that actually there was a clever way to capture the interpretation that the users were doing, but in a handy format. And he was absolutely right. And that's where he then came up with this, what we call the multiple echo technique, which is a way of the devices actually capturing repeatable, reliable measurements. And those measurements are possible through protective coatings. So you don't have to remove the coatings. And that's all through the multiple echo technique. And then he got that technique written into classification societies' regulations for their specifications for carrying out this inspection work. So our roots are very much in the marine shipping industry. But where I mentioned he was a diver as well, he then housed that technology in a suitable format for divers to be able to use. Of course, seriously harsh environment. You need a reliable tool that's rugged. And equally, he did the same with another gauge, which is certified safe for use in explosive environments. So hazardous zone 0, zone 1, depending on what certification you're looking at. So at Cygnus, we're staying really true to that core, which is understanding what our users need, focusing on these niche applications where we can really get under the skin and deliver very rugged, reliable instruments. It's served us well right from our roots.
That's
And
That's,
it's
I mean,
carrying us
what else can
forward.
you hope for to carry on something like that? That's super admirable. And I mean, to push technology in that direction is something that we hope to do too. It's something that we at Blue Eye really hope to get into the culture of ship inspection, is that there is a safer way to do it, and that through technology we can be faster, safer, more cost efficient, and we should continue to look towards the future and see what that growth can bring everybody. Hey, thanks for the background on your company. It's always great to see somebody who's so invested in their company. I had no idea that your dad started Cygnus. That's amazing. And like I said, we just touched on the UTM space here previously, and I'd like to give you a chance to say something about what ultrasonic thickness measurement actually is and what it's useful for. The areas that it's used in, and some of the clients. You don't have to name them, but you can tell us where they are. That are using your technology now.
Sure. So ultrasonic thickness measurement is really important for monitoring corrosion of heavy industrial plant, whatever industrial space you're in. It's generally metal structures, which are usually steel, but if you can only access one side, with ultrasonic thickness gauging, you put the probe on, and that lets you know how much material thickness you've got. So if you've got some corrosion going on, you get an idea of how much wastage of material there is, and you need to know about that before that structure fails. So it's absolutely key in the inspection, repair, maintenance field of pretty much any industrial sector. We have countless applications for our surface products. In the subsea, again, there's so much, but not just subsea. There's inshore waterways as well, canal gates. There's also, you can get inside tanks and pipelines if they're big enough. In the shipping realm, we've already talked about how important shipping is to us as a business and our roots there. It's not just the vessels themselves, but underwater structures at ports, in marinas. We're talking piers, jetties, anything around shipbuilding and repair. But of course, in subsea, the big ones are offshore oil and gas structures, but also wind farms. So we're looking at renewables, and all of these engineered design structures, they have a design life. They are going to corrode and they are going to fail at some point. So they need to be constantly inspected, measured, and maintained. And that's what ultrasonic thickness gauging can do.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like you have a similar answer. People ask me, "Hey, what is your typical customer?" And all I can say is my typical customer is somebody with something underwater that they need to see and test, right? And it's anything. It's algae in the Arctic. It's a pipe on the bottom of the sea. It really doesn't matter in terms of the application. It matters the ability to accomplish the task. So I really appreciate you giving me that answer. And, I encourage everybody watching to think about the other applications that you might be able to utilize this tool in, right? If you pick up a Blueye X3 with a Cygnus mount and you intend to only do ship hull inspections, maybe think a little outside the box. Like, you can inspect other things, right? If it has a thickness and it needs measuring, then you got the tool to do it with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't just stuck with multiple echo. We have introduced latterly some other measuring modes. So if you've got some very heavy corrosion, there's single echo or echo to echo that can be helpful, but they are a little bit less reliable. So we've brought in A scan verification, so that actually gives you the waveform output of the ultrasound, so you have a way of being able to tell if it's a good enough reading or not. Multiple echo is the best, but we have opened things up for wider usage as well. But yeah, we originally for subsea it was divers, but of course there are so many places that are unsafe for divers to go, and it's just fantastic to be able to work with ROVs, ROV manufacturers, ROV operators, alongside the diving community as well.
I second that wholeheartedly. We at Blueye are not here to put any diver out of business. We're here to help you be better at your business. So yeah, I second that wholeheartedly. Yeah, I really appreciate the answer on that one. Thank you. And when we talk about inspections for class, because you kind of touched on that a little bit. We talk about the mini ROVs and ultrasonic thickness measurement and non-destructive testing. And, it seems like you guys have it really dialed into exactly what clients need. But can you talk about why you think that your particular ROV mounted solution might be the best for people watching now?
Yeah, well, it is about this simple user interface, and it's about the reliability. So the mini ROV mountable thickness gauge that we're talking about in this collaboration does provide the true, accurate measurements using the multiple echo technique. So there's no need to remove protective coatings. So obviously that's a time saving, cost saving, but also you're not needing to expose the material behind that protective coating to the risk of then being corroded. You can view live logged measurements at the top side. I really like the way Blueye has integrated not only the pod of electronics and the probe onto your drone, but also you've integrated the thickness measurements into your software.
Yeah.
And again, really simply, you can adjust some of those settings. You've got the measurements overlaid on the video. So it's really neat, and it looks like as well that you're achieving great stability with your drone subsea. And that's really important for that momentary connection to just get that thickness measurement, even though actually you can get away with a tiny little bit of a water gap between the probe and the surface. You still need that little bit of stability just to log that measurement. So it just seems to be working really well, and the whole robustness and all those core values of simple user interface. It's really great.
And what you guys do and what we do is similar in that aspect of we're taking a very technological, sometimes even a very scientific process, and turning it into something that anybody with two thumbs can operate, right? It's to make that technology available and accessible and usable, so that hopefully you folks watching will be excited about using it, and it won't be this arduous task and a high barrier to entry. So we make the drone and the ROV as easy to operate as possible, and you make the thickness gauge as easy to operate as possible. So you all watching have no excuse for not changing the way you're doing business, and I hope you take that to heart. And as class societies, explore and implement these more intense and more frequent inspections, there's obviously going to be a need to satisfy more NDT, UTM data collection. So, what can we as the manufacturers of ROVs, what can the users watching kind of do to pass along that information that's necessary to you guys to keep making the products that, are fitting our needs? Like, I think of introduction of flooded member detection, for example. What other devices and gauges are you working on, and what kind of input do you need from us to keep the train moving forward?
I love that you're wanting to get the information and the feedback to us, because that's everything to us. So just communicate, and just don't hesitate. Get in touch with us. We are logging feedback all the time, and we're increasing our resource behind further investigation, and collaboration with development partners is really important for us. Our whole business model actually supports continuous R&D. So we actually free up a little bit of time pressure to be able to ensure that everything is fully tested, not only internally but also out in the field. And it's really important to us to have actual users giving us feedback before, during, and after any product development. So just don't hesitate to communicate with us, and we're always open. And we really like it's not just one-to-one collaboration, but we kind of often work in a three-way. So obviously you're manufacturing drones and mini ROVs. There are users of yours. We need to know what their needs are, what your needs are. We often do this with distributors as well. We have a three-way going. And it's that approach of just giving us the feedback, good, bad,
always
market conditions, which way things are going, because we are seeing a shift from oil and gas into renewables, slightly different needs, but we just keep needing that input, and we want to work with it, and we're resourcing it, and it's our future.
Yeah.
It's our lifeblood.
Yeah, and that's and to your point about the bad, that's what I tell the client that all the time is, if it works for you, great, I'd love to hear that. But if it's not working for you, that's even more important. And for us here at Blueye, just like you at Cygnus, we test these things. We dive them every day. When you sent your gauge over, you better believe we strapped it to an ROV and went out and hit some ship holes and hit some dock walls and things like that, just to run it through its paces, right? Like if we can break it, I'm sure people watching can break it. And if it breaks, we want to know why. And to everybody watching, the managing director and owner of this company has told you, send your feedback. And I, as the senior sales guy here at Blueye, will tell you, send your feedback. It's the only way we know how to grow. We don't build these things and then push them on you and tell you why you need them. We listen to what you need and build the thing to get the job done. So, always keep the dialogue open with us, and, give us the feedback we need to help you do what you do. Lulu, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed speaking with you. It's been great to hear a little bit about Cygnus, to get to know you. And if you want to say some final words, it's your chance to wrap up.
Oh, well, thank you. I've enjoyed this very much as well. And as I said at the beginning, we're enjoying this partnership with Blueye. So thank you for that. I can't emphasize more the fantastic points that you've made about needing to keep that flow of communication open. I really want to credit you as well with some fantastic looking products, and good luck to you, good luck to us as a partnership, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
And from Trondheim, Norway, and all of us at Blueye Robotics, thanks very much for tuning in. We appreciate your time.